Before we begin, please note that the information shared during this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Radiant Conversation, Radiant Restyle Collective, or its producers. This podcast is not intended to provide medical, legal, financial, or professional advice. Nothing discussed in this episode should be considered a substitute for consultation with your own qualified healthcare provider or other licensed professional. Individual circumstances vary, and listeners should always seek professional guidance regarding their specific needs, diagnoses, treatment options, medications, or healthcare decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that any actions you take based on information discussed are taken at your own discretion and risk.
Is there a time after menopause that is too late, or can anybody start them at any time?
It's never too late to feel good.
That's a good answer. That's a very good answer.
It's never too late. So if you want to, address those symptoms and start feeling better, then now's the time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Radiant Conversations. This is an episode that Shaun and I have been dying to shoot because when we talk to our clients behind the chair, this is the number one topic that they speak of. And we are going to talk today about hormones, menopause, and treatments on both of the above.
So today we have with us Chad Sperry. He is a family nurse practitioner. He owns Holistic Family Wellness. So he is an expert in this field, and we're really excited to throw some questions at him and pick his brain and see what
we've got a lot of questions.
And we've got a lot of questions.
Great. So, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Great to have you here. So we're going to just jump right in because we have so much to talk about. I think some of the most important things that come up to us, even though we are not your title, but guests will even ask Joe this. How do I know I'm in menopause? How do I know? I know there's perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. I mean, what creates that? Is it our age? Is it the symptoms? Is it when my periods stop, my cycles stop, or things like that? So throw that at you.
Yeah, great questions.
Thank you.
Those are, how do you know you're in menopause? They define that as 12 months without a cycle. And then you're in menopause. So perimenopause is when you start to have varied cycles. Maybe you don't have one every month, but then you've got to go 12 months.
So that's the early sign.
So that's the early sign,
all right.
Like a perimenopause. And then along with that, though, that's the definitive. They say 12 months then without a cycle, and then you can be in your menopause. But the also along goes with that is our symptoms. And it's not really age related. We're seeing menopause in 40s now, 40-year-olds. So it can come on very early, not just traditionally when you think about in your 60s.
I was 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I had my hysterectomy, and it was, they kept telling me, you're too young, too young. We're not going to test you for that. And it's exactly what was wrong with me. So I wasn't coming to you at that time. So.
Right.
So when you mentioned symptoms, what symptoms should a woman look for that they're experiencing? I think, of course I don't know anything about the subject, but hot flashes. I've had several clients that have told me like, oh, they just can't lose weight. I ate a cracker this week. I can't lose weight.
Yeah.
Are these symptoms? Are they?
Yeah, definitely. Some of the overt symptoms that women have, you can definitely relate to hormones are going to be hot flashes, night sweats, maybe breast tenderness. You can really hone in and say, that's probably hormones related, that the hormones are getting low. It's, other symptoms are fatigue, tiredness, brain fog, mood, also irritability, with depression, anxiety. Those could be other things as well. So those aren't definitive. So when you put all of these symptoms together with somebody.
Now, I find from talking to women behind the chair that they don't connect the dots. They're like, I'm just so tired and I'm this, or that some of the symptoms, like even having a hot flash, and they're not connecting the dots. Is this, when what is the early sign? Like, I need to go get this checked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what would be the first? Kind of tired, or
Yeah, something that's new and different in your life that you haven't had the previous, 5-10 years, feeling these changes with that. Waking up in the morning and still tired, feeling like you didn't sleep all night. Certainly new onset hot flashes, the night sweats, those changes, which they might not come on all of a sudden. They could come on over time slowly, and that I can see how that would confuse women, or not, they wouldn't think of it.
Do you find that you see and speak with women that are, I'm going to use the word, obstinate to being in menopause? They don't want to admit that they are because I'm too young, or I don't want to be there yet, or I'm going to be old then once I go. You find that discussion in the office that they don't want to admit to it. They just don't want to say I'm there.
I think so. Yeah. Women will, not want to admit it. I think that maybe is part of the age-related idea behind how, menopause happens in your 60s, which just, we're finding isn't true anymore. And I said earlier in the 40s, we even see it in 30s, 30-year-olds now.
I have a friend that was 28 when
28.
she first started, which was very rare and young. But, we hear so much behind the chair that kind of shocked me.
Yeah.
That's what made me kind of research more when I was 40 to say, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
And it's probably not, mine started with heart palpitations. So we did heart monitors, different things like that, trying to see what it was. And they said, we're not testing you hormonally because you're an athlete, you're healthy, all these things. And that's what it ended up being. It's just crazy.
Yes.
I didn't have a lot of these other symptoms at that time.
Yeah.
So, for women out there, if you find something different and you're not feeling right, don't be afraid to go to somebody like Chad and check it out.
So they come to you, they've recognized the symptoms, and we're going to go into testing. What kind of testing do you recommend they should have? What kind of testing do you guys do in your office as well?
I'd say we start with the blood draw, the blood testing, check estradiol, progesterone, testosterone as well. We look at follicle stimulating hormone, sex hormone binding globulin. So in a blood draw, then we can get a good picture of what are the level of the hormones. And that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, since you brought up testosterone, do you mind if I throw some male questions in there?
Sure.
Testosterone be related to men, to males. Since we're on the subject of symptoms, can you tell me or tell our audience, which is primarily women over 40, but there's a lot of men that watch our show, what are symptoms? Like I've been on testosterone for a while, I'll admit that. And I didn't realize it. And then one day, Shaun goes, if you tell me you're tired one more time, I'm going to scream. So, then I just decided to go have that tested. So what are some of the symptoms men might see? I don't ever recall a hot flash period, but.
Yeah. Some of the symptoms men might see are fatigue, tiredness, low energy too. I can't do my workout anymore to the level I used to do it, with running or lifting weights. So that stamina's not there, that energy. So kind of similar to the women there with low testosterone. You're going to have some brain fog too, maybe some memory recall issues. The memory's just not there like it used to be. So those are some of the
Are there
big
body
symptoms.
changes for both men and women? Like, do you see I'm putting weight on around my belly? Weight for women, hips are getting wider. Or what are the body changes they might recognize?
For the men, body changes for the men?
Well, both.
For both.
Yeah,
for men, you might see, definitely if we're seeing the bigger belly and some gynecomastia, where you see kind of a little bit more of the man boobs, per se. You see a lot more of that when we're on the beach out there. Mm-hmm. It's just, metabolically, carrying more weight around could be a little bit more estrogen on board that's out of balance with the testosterone in men.
And that is something when I got on testosterone, it had to be balanced with a little bit of estrogen after a minute because I was turning into a woman. I always joke about.
Yeah.
So they started giving me a little bit of estrogen to calm that down. So balance it out.
Haven't really brought up in this either too, and I think both sides, male and female, and this is another thing as I was going into the female question before, is that there's sexual libido issues.
Yes.
Correct. And I think that's really hard. I find when I talk to my male clients opposed to my female clients in the chair, that's something that they want to hide more than a female wants to hide. I think women do too, but I think I have found that that's an issue. They're too afraid to go to a doctor because of that. They don't want to admit there's some issues going on, things like that, which is very important. It's a very important part of life and, all of these issues with menopause.
Correct. Yeah. And I would say that is for the men more of a maybe thing to admit, right? Or even talk about. So I'll have men that come in, and even when my medical assistant rooms them and says, what are your concerns today? And they say, I don't have any, but I go in the room, they're like, well, I'm having, erectile dysfunction, low libido. And so we can open up and talk about that and how we can help out with that.
I can say as someone, again, that's taken it, let me tell you, when you get on testosterone, that's not an issue. That makes an overnight change. You'll be chasing your wife through the house.
And that's the thing is, if something's not right and you just don't sit on it. Don't just keep thinking, it'll get better or maybe, and I hear this a lot with some of my men guests in the past over the years was that, they think maybe their marriage is in danger, that they don't recognize that it's something going on with them internally, that they think, well, maybe I'm not in love with my wife anymore, or maybe I'm not in love with my husband anymore because I don't feel that desire. And some of it is because of these issues, and I think it's important to come to someone like you and get it out.
Do women have the same libido drop as well?
Yeah, and women too with libido, and also women can have vaginal dryness or even some pain.
Yes,
and that's going to affect marriage, the relationship. So just like men with erectile dysfunction, low libido, women as well. So that's where hormones can help women too.
Yeah. And I think it's important to discuss this because it is a more intimate topic and it is a more personal topic. And I think a lot of people try to not even tell their specialist about it too because they're ashamed or they're afraid. And there's nothing, if you can't get it fixed, if you don't tell the problem to the specialist. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Now, is there other tests that we should either eliminate or look into should you check your thyroid and your vitamin D levels, and what other tests might you do or just not recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. At Holistic Family Wellness, we take that holistic approach where, everything, all these different parts of the body have synergy with each other. So if we're looking at symptoms that maybe we're talking about fatigue, low energy, mood, even with hot flashes, night sweats, and we look at the hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, that might not be the only players. So we also know that thyroid has an effect too. So are we having any hypothyroid? So it's something we'd want to look at in the blood work as well. Are we having any cortisol issues? Cortisol is a big hormone and it affects thyroid, estrogen, progesterone receptors, testosterone. So there's multiple things that we like to look at to make sure we're covering, we like to go to those root cause.
Now, adrenals, does that have something to do with all of this as well? Does that fall into this category as well as things that could become an issue? Because adrenals, correct me because you're going to know this better than I, adrenals are kind of give you energy, things like that, correct? So
yes, correct.
That would be a part of this as well?
Yeah, adrenals are a part of this as well.
And you check, and I know because I've been to Chad, so I know that you check those things as well. So I think that's important to not just think it's just menopause I have to deal with. There's other issues possibly in the body too.
Other issues in the body. Yeah, so we look at that cortisol. Our adrenal gland makes that cortisol, and it's our stress hormone. So think about all of our stressors in the world. We're stressed driving on the road. We're stressed in our relationships and all kinds of things. So that cortisol output, it'll come and it will attach to some of the binding sites, like some of the T3 binding sites for thyroid and block thyroid hormone. So that's where that's real important to consider and check in all these synergistic areas with the body. We want to look for balance.
So with all that said, we're going to jump into, we've recognized the symptoms. Okay. Now we're going to move on to visiting you and having the blood test, and we find out there's an issue. Where do we go? What do you recommend? Okay. What are there treatments available? I know there are, but what treatments are available?
Yeah, what treatments are available? We have, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. So looking at the lab results, and we need to balance those levels, then we're going to talk about those different options, different route of delivery
As
for those.
I know there's multiple delivery systems.
Yes.
Multiple.
Multiple.
So how do you choose the delivery system for each person that comes in?
It's, it's a discussion. So everybody's different. With those delivery systems, we tell them all those. Estrogen can be a oral, like a troche that you put in your mouth that dissolves. It can be a cream or drops that you put on your skin that are absorbed. They have estrogen patch where you wear the patch throughout the week. And then they also have estrogen as pellets that can be inserted under the skin as well. You can do the pellets, you can do estrogen and testosterone. And this is the same for progesterone. Again, there's oral progesterone, creams topically, the pellets, and testosterone can be a topical cream as well. There's an oral testosterone and pellets as well.
So what are the risks or side effects of these?
Oh, the
treatments?
Risks or side effects of these treatments? Well, I'd like to say there's not any. However, if we take anything in excess and we get our levels too high, then we can have a risk. So we don't want to take estrogen and drive it very, very high. That'll give us, side effects as well.
Well, this is going amazing. We're getting out of you everything what we want to do.
Yes.
But right now, just as it always goes, we're going to take a break real quick and cut back to our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Radiant Conversations and from
Holistic Family Wellness, Chad Sperry.
Now, my style is like pink hair, green hair, purple hair. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I trust you.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, here we go.
We have a plan in mind. We're not telling you. You'll have to stay around to the end to see what it is.
I love everything you guys did to her. That's beautiful. Like I told you, I couldn't recognize her because she's beautiful, but you guys added more things to her. It's beautiful. The color, the style, everything.
Welcome back. We're here today with Chad Sperry, and he's the owner of Holistic Family Wellness, and we're talking about hormones, menopause, perimenopause, and postmenopause. A great subject. We're getting a lot of information, so we're just going to jump right back in again, and I want to kind of go back to where we left off in the risks and side effects of the treatments
Yes.
that you were telling that's offered out there. So, a lot of times I hear people tell me that, well, those cause breast cancer. That, is that a true statement?
It's a great question. Do they cause breast cancer? And
It's a concern that
it's a
women
concern.
do have.
Yeah.
I know that.
I guess, you have to consider going back to 2001, the Women's Health Initiative came out. And in that study, they put estrogen up on a pedestal. And they found in that study that estrogen increased the risk of breast cancer. However, when you look into that study, it is the man-made estrogen, the Perimenopause.
Is that man-made synthetic?
Synthetic,
Is that what we're talking
yeah.
about? Okay.
Yeah. And they also studied bioidentical estrogen in that study. And there was a 14% decrease in breast cancer with bioidentical. So this is what we have to talk about. There's a difference between a man-made synthetic estrogen and what it does in the body and a bioidentical.
So what is the difference between bioidentical and
So think of bioidentical, the body sees it as self. Okay. Think of the example of a car key. If we have our Chevy truck and we're going to put in the Chevy key, it'll start the car. And if we lose that key, we can go back to Chevy and they can make us a new key. But we could go down to the keysmith and they can do a generic key. As long as it has the same teeth, it'll go in the truck and start the car. So that key's identical to the ignition on that truck. That's bioidentical hormones. Okay. So the body sees it as self. So if we're putting something in that's natural, that the body sees as self, you have to ask, how is that going to cause breast cancer? If it did, why aren't 16, 18, 22-year-old women walking around with breast cancer.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and they're not. So
That was a great analogy on that too, to understand the difference. It's something that I personally took knowledge with when I found out that I was in menopause. I really wanted to go holistic. I didn't know Chad at that time. I wanted to go into a stronger, because I did read on synthetics. I'm not a fan of synthetic. That's my personal opinion, because it is, to me, it's altered. It is an animal urine. That didn't sound like something I wanted put inside my body.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research
Which I
on that.
made her Google that. I'm like, what?
Okay.
It's animal urine.
He said, that's
Yeah.
not true. And I'm like, you forget how much research I put into this,
Yeah.
back then. And I wanted to make sure. And I watched my clients sitting in my chair. They were miserable. They would go to the doctor. They would give them a synthetic hormone. They would go back because they're gaining, twice their size, sometimes 3 times their size weight. And then they go back to the doctor. They're miserable. And they give them an antidepressant, some type of other medicine, which made them gain more weight.
gain more weight. Yeah.
And they were miserable. And I thought, and I'd watch their mood swings get way worse than what they were,
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not something I want to be a part of at all. So I chose the bioidentical route. And unfortunately for me, I have a blood disorder that I found out with getting blood clots from my surgery, from my hysterectomy. So I am very special. As Chad found out when I went
Yes.
to see him, I am very unique. I am very allergic to a lot of things. I really watch. So therefore, when Joe went through this process, there was the creams that he liked that I'm highly, because any hormone that I deal with can cause a blood clot for me. So I have to be very, very careful.
Which brings us back to delivery. And the creams. I have done all the check on all the above. Troches, I've done shots. I did a cream, patches, and now I'm on another cream. But you were very clear to me about stay away, don't, from her for about at least 5 to 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's the route of delivery. What we're going to choose does depend upon what we're doing in our life. Because think of a cream, we're going to put it on and it will absorb. It should absorb in about 5 minutes, but it's best to leave it open to air for 20 minutes.
Okay.
But that's with a cream. You can have transference to faucet to the handle. So think of that even with testosterone, because if you were taking testosterone, you might not want to get it on the door handles and transfer it where, Shaun could pick it up off a door handle, that kind of thing. So everybody has to consider these. And do you want to take an oral where you can just put it in and you're done? And then you don't have that risk of transference there. Some people have the routine in the morning in the bathroom where they're going to be putting on their creams, and while they get ready, they absorb. Other people don't have that kind of time in their life, and they're on the go, so they want something that's a little bit more quicker or convenient with taking an oral as well. I
have found, because I honestly, I bet in my friend circle, our friend circle, 90% of them are on the pellets. Everybody is on the pellets. We broke into a conversation here in the salon one time, and everybody just started jumping in on it. I'm like, you're on the pellets too? Like, everybody's on the pellets. I cannot take the pellets. I first take the pellets, and I have like bursts of energy, and boy, I am living my best life. Mm-hmm. And they're supposed to last about 3 to 6 months. Is that correct?
For a man, about 5 or 6 months on average, yeah.
So then like 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh, and they just seem to burn out on me. Then I went to shots, and shots was really one that kept me pretty balanced, but you don't want to poke yourself every day, and it's a bigger needle, it's got to go deeper in the muscle. I'm really doing great on the cream. So is there, I know we haven't really touched on the pellets, but can you go a little deeper into the pellet aspect of the treatment now, or am I jumping around too much?
Sure. Yeah, on the pellet treatment.
Yeah.
They, again, everybody's metabolism's different, metabolically speaking, and with absorption and those things. So the pellets, again, can be estrogen and testosterone only. We still have to take progesterone by itself, whether we're doing that with a cream or oral capsule. So those pellets, they do get inserted into the subcutaneous tissue here. And then for women, they should last around 3 to 4 months, maybe 5 months. I have some women that go that long based on their metabolism. And for a man, it should be about 5-6 months with that. And the benefit of the pellets that we're hearing, I think why so many people love them. I mean, you put them in and forget about them.
Yeah.
And then you can go on about your day. You just need to take your progesterone each day. And so that fits a lot of lifestyles, people that sometimes forget their medications and stuff. But it is a really good point that you can't forget your progesterone.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
those are
important.
in you, and you can't take them out, those pellets. So you need your progesterone every day to keep things balanced.
So we are in the state of Indiana. Your practice is in Indiana. Is there an average cost nationwide on about what those cost for men and women?
Yeah, here in the Midwest, I think it's going to vary, East Coast, West Coast, but here in the Midwest, about $350 for a woman and around $600 for a man.
Now, does insurance cover that? Any insurance cover that at all?
Insurance is not going to cover the pellets.
Insurance tends to stay away from anything to do with hormones and imbalances and testosterone and all that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
I want to step back just a little bit and go into do any of these treatments, can they or do they cause blood clots, strokes, things like that? Or is that just individual health issues?
That's really individual health issues. So in general, we're going to say no to that because we're looking at balancing our hormones bioidentically as the body sees it itself. So again, going back to when a woman's 18 and making a lot of hormones, we're not seeing blood clot issues there unless there's an underlying, genetic issue.
Special like me.
Yes. then that's always there. That's not anything that we can change.
Correct. And I will preface that my blood clot issue had nothing to do with the bioidentical hormones. It was an issue that I had from my heritage, my family, my bloodline, all of that. So that didn't really have, the hormones itself didn't cause that. It was actually having the surgery.
In all fairness, though, there's a lot of issues with your hair. It's just not hormone. That's another subject. We'll go.
Oh, Joe, we'll get you back on that one later. So that being said, I think it's important to know that, again, for myself, I did not know that going into this, that I had the blood clot issue or the blood disorder. So, for me, it didn't come out, even taking a year's worth of bioidenticals, it didn't come out until the actual surgery of the hysterectomy actually brought that up for me. Mm-hmm. So it is something that I'm very sensitive about, as the creams with Joe, the things that he chose to take, that it was for him, he kind of laughed at me like, I'm like, don't get close to me. He's like, but he went through the process of the blood clots with me and how serious it was. So I think it's important for people to understand the bioidenticals, for me personally, and you're the medical professional, isn't what causes that. You have to look further, deeper into the health issues.
Yes.
Itself to find that.
Yeah, you have to look
You've
deeper.
mentioned all the above, the cream, the patches. Is there a preferred method that you choose in that?
I would say not that I choose. I leave it up to the patients. I would say the most chosen one is probably the topical, the drops or the creams.
They are the easiest.
Yeah, they are the easiest, yeah. So,
Why do you feel like my friends are just in love with the pellets? Like they just love them,
Yeah.
Like, and I'm on the cream through you, but you do pellets in your practice
we
as
do
well?
pellets as well, yeah. I think the reason why people love pellets the most is because then they are very steady.
Yeah.
Every day throughout the month. Very steady with its absorption and release in the body. They just can have those put in and really not think about it, take their progesterone at bedtime, and they feel really great.
Now, I had known that once you get on something like this, the follow-up treatments are just as important, because I can notice my grouchy level can go up, and then I'll be like, okay, I gotta start backing this back down. It's too much testosterone. I'm on edge.
Wait, you notice your grouchy level, or Sean's the one that noticed?
I don't have any
She
trouble
makes
telling
sure
him.
I notice.
I have no trouble telling him that whatever you're doing, you're a little moody. You're a little moody.
So what, for future reference, for looking forward for someone getting into therapies, what is the procedures? How often they have to have testing, and and so forth.
Yeah, how often do they have to have testing? We want a baseline up front. So we'll get that lab work testing to see where the hormones are at. And then we like to start low and go slow. And so we'll choose where that needs to be individually. And then we want to check in 3 months after starting hormones. Check in, see how you're doing. What are your symptoms? Are you seeing improvements? And then check that lab work again and then see if we need to adjust those further, because we're looking to make you feel the best that you can.
Exactly.
Individually. So that's what we're shooting for.
Do you find people will come to you and say, give me the maximum? Just let me have it. Just give me the top level that I can have. That they just I just want to feel good right
Yes,
now.
I just
You
want to
always
feel good
wanna
right
feel
now. They do.
18
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
have the energy of an 18-year-old, but
Make my symptoms go away yesterday.
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, they do. But that's where we have to do, okay, let's do some education here. Let's talk through it. We don't want to cause problems or issues,
Be safe. Safe is the most
Safe.
important thing.
Yeah, very safe.
What are issues that could happen? Like I mentioned that I get a little grouchy
Mm-hmm.
when I came too high on testosterone. What are some of the things to look for once you get on it? Like, I feel worse, or I feel better, or I'm moody, or I'm grouchy. What are some of the symptoms that?
Yeah, it's interesting in general. If you get your levels too high, it can be some of the same symptoms as being too low. So it can be now we are getting moody, grouchy. With testosterone, you're going to have more aggressiveness. Maybe I'm getting more angry. I am flipping my lid quicker.
Very fast.
Very fast.
And that's
Short
men and
fuse.
women.
For all the people that
For men
I've
and
ridden
women,
behind
yeah.
you really close, please forgive me. Now you understand why I did it. I'm a nice guy, just too high on testosterone.
Yeah. So we want to follow up with testing because we're talking about bioidenticals being safe. However, you want to be in that zone of the reference range. If we shoot too high with estrogen or progesterone, we can cause other issues now in the body. So that's why repeated testing. And then when we have somebody feeling really good and we've tested and we know that the hormones are in the safe zone, then we typically can get out to a year and test yearly once we're really have it dialed in.
Now, is there a risk or issue with things? I know, like with peptides on the market right now, there are all kinds of places to get peptides safe, unsafe as well. Is there an issue with this and hormone therapy as well, that people can diagnose themselves and find it in some market someplace?
Or a vitamin, some vitamins.
Yeah.
Advertise it'll raise your testosterone
Yes.
level.
Like you see that on TV. You see
Yeah.
commercials that
Right.
say, if you have low T, or,
Right.
for women too, it's like, is that an issue where people try to diagnose themselves and find unhealthy treatments out there?
Yeah, I think that there are things that are being, out there that we can find that are unhealthy. You want to have your hormones checked, I just wouldn't go off symptoms alone and feel like you're low in this hormone and then getting something out there that's not, regulated or approved and be taking that.
Good for them. And I know I find it behind the chair. I have clients that'll tell me, well, I'm taking XYZ and ABC, and what are you taking that for? I don't know. I read it was good for me. Well, I know from talking to you as well that you can't always just take because it's good for you. You need it in your body first of all.
Right.
Correct. So that's not healthy either, just to start taking stuff without having it, prescribed for you.
Correct. In
So-
general, yeah.
I would know for sure that somebody's watching this episode and going, well, I'm glad you're able to get your testosterone at $1,200 a year, and I'm glad you feel good, but I work 3 jobs and I'm barely paying the bills. Is there anything for those people that just can't afford to do all, because even blood work costs additional and insurance doesn't cover anything. Are there any kind of therapies that kind of balance you a little bit? Maybe you don't get the kick of going to see you, but is there over the counter or change of eating or anything that could help?
Yeah, that's a big, broad question, Joe.
It's
like-
broad shoulders too.
We can tell you we're going to throw it at you today.
Yeah. There's many of those things, that can be helpful. Nutrition, diet, for certain, because We have a lot of those, phytoestrogens out there and plastics. So we're taking on board extra hormones, that we don't need. And maybe we need to just detox from those. We get the receptor sites for estrogen, progesterone, testosterone can kind of be bound up. And then if you can detox those receptor sites, we increase the signaling pathways that can help there with hormones as well. So there are many different things to look at out there.
That was the first thing when I first visited you. I came and I'm like, I just don't feel it anymore. Like I'm not kind of like getting the same. And you detoxed me off.
Yeah.
And then started back over again. And that made such a huge difference. But all right, since I want to keep it on track,
Yes.
we're going to take another break.
We need a break.
And boy, this is very exciting. I hope you're getting a lot out of this episode. But for right now, we'll be right back to Radiant Conversations. Are you planning on putting limitations on us?
No.
Oh, so you're just, we're
I
going
am
for
ready
it.
to go.
This is sucking all the knowledge of Randy's brain. No.
That way you can run out the door and feel fabulous even if you don't have a full face of makeup. She is a hoot. Oh my gosh, she was so much fun. She was so much fun and she just loved it too.
I think she looks like a movie star. I think she looked great.
We're back with Radiant Conversation. We are talking today about hormones and hormone therapy with Chad Sperry. He is with Holistic Family Wellness, and we are getting a lot of information out. We are getting a lot of questions asked and answered. So let's just jump right back in where we left off. I think it was the question you asked, Joe, was really important, of the people out there that are saying, sure, great for you, but I can't afford these therapies. What's out there for them? What's their options?
One of the great options is we have a compounder that we work with who has come up with having the hormones in drops. And that bottle is around $65.
Yeah.
And there's 600 drops in that bottle. So let's say you're on need 2 drops a day. That's 300 days. So for $65, that could last you almost a year.
And
for
that is what you put me on.
Yeah.
And I feel better than I felt in a long time. So it's working for me for sure. And I love the cost savings for sure.
Well, I think it's important to understand when you're not balanced, and correct me on my wording with this, when your hormones are not balanced, there's so many other things than the things we've suggested have your symptoms, that if you're not balanced, then there's other organs that can fail because they're trying to fight to get back in balance. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would think that's a good way to think about it.
So it's important to try to find a way. You don't have to go with the big expensive treatments, but I think it's important to find out how these, each treatment works. What do you need? What don't you need? Don't just think that I'm just going to start taking testosterone or I'm just going to start taking estrogen. And I think a lot of men in this don't think about the estrogen and the progesterone. They only think about the testosterone.
Correct.
And I think for women, that was my next question. I know for me, as low as I was when I was tested, they were shocked that I still, because I worked out, I did a lot of weightlifting and things like that, that my testosterone was still a little, it was low, but it wasn't as low as everything else. So I think women feel like testosterone, I shouldn't be taking that.
Right. Yeah. I think that this whole stigma about women and testosterone, but it's a hormone too. And I think it's been forgotten for so many decades for women. We think of estrogen and progesterone, but they've done a really good 7-year longitudinal study on women with testosterone. And when they balanced it, they showed the benefits of it being bone protective for women, cardioprotective, and brain protective. So we need to not forget about testosterone when we're treating women. They need testosterone too. Yeah.
Can we break down basically, if you're low on estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone, let's start with estrogen. If you're low on estrogen as a female, we'll start there. What would be the more symptoms of the low estrogen?
Probably primarily your night sweats and your hot flashes. Could even be some breast tenderness, fatigue, certainly in there, and probably mood. And I'd put the mood in there with the anxiety, irritability.
And then the progesterone, what would be some symptoms if you're low in that? Let's go females first, and we'll go male next.
The low in progesterone, again, we think of the tiredness and the fatigue, and some of these go hand in hand with the low estrogen, low progesterone there, with also irritability. Yeah.
What about testosterone? What would be the symptoms of low testosterone in a female?
I'd say think of tiredness, fatigue, extreme fatigue, and maybe not sleeping well.
So any of those three, which would be the three, or maybe all of them, would be for the libido as well. Would that all three of them together low, or is there one that higher, lower than the other?
I would say all three. There's a synergistic about having all three balanced. Certainly the testosterone, you're going to lean into that a little bit more when it comes to libido, the sex drive. Probably a little bit more weight on testosterone.
Okay, so let's go male side then. Well, no, as male, what would be their symptoms for low estrogen?
Kind of be the same as for
Same
women.
as for-
Yeah, pretty similar with the fatigue and some of the tiredness there. You're not going to have the hot flashes and the night sweats to lean on with men. So it's more of mood, fatigue, tiredness.
And I think not enough may be said about when you're not getting the sleep, the irritability level just from not sleeping is a lot.
Yes.
And I'm not a doctor, I just play one behind my chair, but my cortisone levels then would kind of like lead to like your stomach issues and
Weight gain
and all that.
Yeah, cortisol.
From lack of.
Yeah.
So it's really this big circle that you've got to fill in. So that is very
And it sounds very
interesting.
individual to me too.
Very individual.
To each symptom, to each, what you're feeling, what you're needing. It seems very individual, which is why you go to someone like you
Yeah, exactly.
to break that down. And he can tell you what you need.
So there's a lot of women out there that are troopers, and they have went through the hot flashes. They went through the whole thing and just got to the other side. Maybe they're in their late 60s or 70s. Is there a time after menopause that is too late, or can anybody start them at any time?
It's never too late to feel good.
That's a good answer.
That's
a
never
very
too
good
late.
answer.
It's never too late. So if you want to, address those symptoms and start feeling better, then now's the time. So
is there a certain age when they say don't take any hormones at all, or bioidenticals? Let's just say bioidenticals.
with bioidentical hormones, no.
Okay. Because I definitely have had clients tell me, my doctor told me I can't. I'm too old now. And maybe that's the synthetic ones they're talking more.
Yeah, I've heard that common as well. And I don't know where that is out there in traditional medicine, where that started from and why it sticks. There has to be some kind of research study that I'm sure maybe went along with the man-made synthetic estrogens there that says, well, you're too old now, so stop.
That's one reason we wanted to do this podcast with you, because there's so many people on social media and channels that put so much stuff out in the universe that's just not true or factual.
Right.
And we really want to try to do things like this to really get the questions answered.
Give people the
informed.
information that's out there.
Yeah.
So let me go around a little bit to someone like me. I cannot do bioidenticals because of my blood disorder. So, and I know, and that I go to an iridologist as well, and to you as well. So what's out there for someone like me? Because there are some people out there, even I'm special. There are people out there. Yeah. What would be my answer? Because I can't take hormone therapy. What are the things that you've suggested to me to take for someone like me?
Well, I would, for you, in your situation, we want to, there's cofactors and coenzymes with the receptor sites, and the big one's vitamin D. Vitamin D is going to help at the receptor binding site. So let's make sure our vitamin D is optimal. Is that low? We're going to look at that. Well, I mentioned again how we can do a cleansing of the receptor sites, a receptor site detox. So that can help out those signaling pathways, a good proper nutrition as well in there. And we do have something that's in the glandular department. I don't know if you've heard of glandulars. Mm-hmm. And so glandulars, comes from, another animal. And within that gland, you're going to have the enzymes, proteins, nutrients, RNA, DNA that help our gland or our organ. And this glandular therapy goes back thousands of years. This is back in the writing of, Aristotle and Hippocrates, and they used it in medicine back then.
That,
yeah. So there are other natural ways to help support the body.
So, go ahead.
Well, I have a question because I have been on hormones for
Don't put up your age.
20, yeah. Here I am, only 30, and I've been on for 20 years. Is there too long? I mean, in my own mind, I'm like, well, can I take them till I'm 70 or 80, or is there a time limit on them? Like,
absolutely, you can. There's no time limit on them. You can take them. If you want to feel good for the rest of your life, up to end of life, you stay on them till that time comes.
And then, because I'm a rule breaker and I do things that are counterproductive to the feeling good. We've talked about that. I don't mind having a margarita here or two, or one a night or two a night. Are there things that are counterproductive to treatments of hormones and so forth? And please don't say margaritas.
Things that are counterproductive to treatment. We live in a toxic world, so the things that are going to be counterproductive are all these hormones that are out there, the estrogens, the phytoestrogens, these things that are in plastics mainly is where you're going to get your estrogens. Plastics made from an estrogen ring. So we're seeing a lot of that. Bottled waters, if you're storing your food in plastics, we're seeing a great increase. have some people that are on the road travelers, and they buy a case of bottled water to sit in their car so they can drink their water while they're driving, and then testing comes back, wow, you're really high in your estrogen. And so then we have to detox there.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand that. I've been doing a lot of reading on just changing over even like your utensils at home from plastics. All of that really is a big, you're finding more and more that these things are causing issues.
Kind of like led me and Shaun towards water filters to put in our house. And now, are you a believer or non-believer that there are additives into like chicken and all that, and that's producing some of the disruption in our bodies?
Yeah, with hormones, antibiotics, those in our meats. Yep, those are additives that are going into the body as well.
What should people be looking for then? If they're not, they're buying in the store, should they be looking for organic? Should they be going to a farm and getting them, butcher shops instead of, grocery stores? What's the best, healthiest way?
Certainly look for organic in the stores. I think with the meats, you're looking for something that's, grass-fed and grass-finished is going to be the most optimal. And outside of the stores, the best place, I think, is going to be if you can find a local farmer that, they're raising their own animals there. And so you know how it's done and get it from them. So then, it's not injected with growth hormone and they're antibiotic-free.
And that trend is really...
We have more and more clients. They'll go together with a neighbor or another family member and buy half of a cow. I keep saying, we're buying half of a cow, things like that.
Yeah.
So they know they're getting safer.
On our way to work, we pass a couple farmers markets each time, and they're just getting busier and busier and busier. And I think people are realizing what they're doing to our vegetables and all that, the pesticides, and they want to stay in that organic kind of homegrown feel to it.
Yes.
Too.
So what about working out? I feel like that. It's always been a very important key factor for me. And I will say, through my life, I have great friends. They're very positive. And they'll say, Shaun, you always look good. There's been moments in my life that I've gained 30, 40 pounds that I didn't want on there. And it wasn't because of what I was eating, living a bad lifestyle. It was because my hormones weren't balanced or something. My body wasn't correct. And you helped me with a lot of those things as well. So that being said, some people hate to work out, but how important is that and lifestyle and making these therapies work better?
Mm-hmm. Oh, how important is it for exercise in our life? We need movement. We need to move. It's one of those core things along with sleep and what we eat, but movement. So the best kind of exercise is what's right for you.
Yes.
What motivates you, what you will do. with your movement, whether it's some of the resistance training or whether it's also with some cardio. Yeah.
Now, going back, keeping it in the budget-friendly area, let's just say I decided I just don't have the money anymore to do this. What is there side effects that I'm going to experience by getting off of hormones, or people that are, and it happens a lot to retirees. You got to start thinking how
they're on
you're
a
going to spend your
very
Social
strict
Security
budget,
and
yes.
so forth.
Yeah.
What if it's not in the budget anymore? What should they expect? And if it's not in the budget, what they should expect, could they start something else that might ease them into that? That was a lot of questions there.
Yeah. If it's not in the budget, what should they expect coming off hormones?
Yes,
Then most likely a return of symptoms to some degree.
Even the hot flashes, say you're 70, and
Could be a return of hot flashes. Now, I would also say it depends. If we've been working together, we're not just working on your hormones. We've been working on thyroid. We've been working on detoxing the liver, the body. We've been making your body cleaner. And so I do have women that will come off the hormones and not have those big return of symptoms. We've cleaned up the body, the receptor sites, a lot of detoxing. And I do have some women that have come off of them and not had a return of symptoms.
well, I know with me, you started in the gut, but both of us started in the gut, and that made a huge difference. You don't think about it, but it was really a big difference for me.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of, to your question or point there, Joe, a lot of people don't realize that we have a lot of receptor sites in the gut for estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. There's, we make 90% of our serotonin in the gut and 50% of dopamine. So the gut is kind of like Houston control. We're kind of referring it to as our
Houston, there's a problem.
People put enough effort into gut health.
Yes.
Because I didn't. Until I met you, I did not.
I mean, I hear this a lot. It starts in the gut.
Starts in the gut. Yeah, Stanford released a study just a few months ago. They were studying the fetus in utero and development, and they saw that what was developing first is the gut, the colon, second, the vagal nerve, and then third, the brain. So they're seeing that in development, the thing that develops first. So you would think, wow, maybe the gut is our first brain.
So I would definitely advise getting into testing how your gut. I think you did it through a urine test in your office.
Yeah, we do an office urine
test. It showed
test.
a lot of. We both of us were really out of balance on ours.
Yes.
And we started taking your suggestions, and it worked out perfectly for us. So I know this answer already, but getting on progesterone or hormones or whatever, sleep will improve. That's just a natural side effect of it, or could you still have sleep issues?
Well, you getting on hormones, your sleep could improve. It should, but that's just one part of it, right? And progesterone is interesting there. If you take progesterone, I feel the gold standard is to take an oral capsule at bedtime because it has what we call first pass through the liver, and then you'll get conversion to GABA. And then GABA goes to the brain and helps sleep. So you kind of have a 2-for-1 on an oral progesterone. You're getting your hormones balanced and getting better sleep from it. But then you have other things that affect sleep. Our cortisol, nighttime blood glucose, what's going on with our insulin resistance. So
Drinking a margarita after 9.
maybe that too.
Probably not suggested.
I find that to be a problem.
Well, I think, with this information, I'm learning more things just even from coming and visiting you.
Oh, absolutely.
Things that maybe you've had said and I forgot and all that. But I just really feel like it's important for people, if you're watching this podcast, the key to me sounds like get to a specialist, get tested, get blood work done, find your base, see where you're at. And it sounds like to me it's a step-by-step process. Don't go and think you're going to play God and fix everything,
Right.
in one visit. It's going to take some visits. It's going to take a few to figure out one step at a time. And that's what you did with us. It wasn't just, let's do this. Well, let's work on this. And then once you then let's go to this. It's just like get you to that ladder and get you to the top.
Since we're talking about seeking specialists in this, and I'm sure a lot of the women and men out there would agree with me, prior to, I had to go outside of my general practitioner at the time, back when I started, because they didn't mess with them. They didn't want to get into hormones. And I know there's a lot of women that are watching it that have said to their doctors, like, what do you think about this? And they're like, like, you'll get through this, you're tough.
Just tough through it.
Just tough and through it, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to suffer out there. I mean, there are treatments for it. And if your doctor is not on board with you getting a healthier lifestyle, you really need to move on, so.
Yeah.
Well, I would implore, for me as a person, not a professional, do not take synthetic hormones. Go the bioidentical route.
Since we're talking a lot of synthetic hormones, what are, are they, where do you get them? Like, I don't even know what they are. I know what I've been exposed to has always been bioidentical.
Yeah.
So where are these coming from? And are people using them?
People are using them. That's if you go to your traditional doctor and they prescribe hormones, that goes to a regular pharmacy, a CVS, Walgreens. Those are typically your synthetic, man-made.
So that's kind of, I don't mean to sound disrespectful to the doctors. Is that a lazy man approach? Like, oh, your hormones are out of balance here, let me write this prescription. Instead of, are they just not doing the testing? Or
a knowledge thing, that they're not knowledgeable about other options out there?
Yeah, I would say that's probably through their training, what they've been trained to do. That's through medical school, and this is our approach to it when it comes to hormones. And we write a script and send that over to the pharmacy to fill the estrogen or progesterone. Yeah. And typically there is, when we talk about patches for estrogen, estradiol, that is a bioidentical patch that is available at like CVS, Walgreens, and we have seen an increase in that over the last year or so. So there's some options there. So it's not that all of them at the pharmacies are man-made synthetic, but they typically will send over a script for, let me start you on some progesterone, send that over to the regular pharmacy, and they dispense that as a progestin. And a progestin is not progesterone. That is the man-made synthetic. So it will do different in the body than progesterone.
Okay. Well, I think it's time for another break.
Okay.
So
Great.
We'll stop right at that moment and come back in just a few minutes. So stay with us. We have some great information.
We'll be right back.
You were to describe yourself as a dance song. Which one of these best describes you and your style? Living La Vida Loca, Dancing Queen, or Dancing in the Dark?
Living La Vida Loca. As a Latina.
What you're getting ready to see today is a true Living La Vida Loca experience for Maritza. And if you're not shocked, I don't know what we've done right.
When Joe and Shaun get done with your makeover, what are you expecting? What do you want to get out of it?
I want my hair to be completely different.
Today is get a haircut, get a puppy.
Get a puppy. Oh.
Free makeover.
So you want a puppy?
Puppy with the
People wear the colors that they feel the best in or most complimented in, which is usually their family that they fall in.
I think I look 10 years younger.
And she's going to tap you on the shoulder, and then you'll turn around and you will see the transformation of beautiful Kathy.
Welcome back to Radiant Conversations, and we are here talking about everything to do with hormones and treatments, menopause and treatments, and we are with our guest, Chad Sperry, and we're going to go backwards a little bit. We talked about all the great knowledge that you have, but you have a lot of great knowledge. Where did you get into this? And notice the word in your business is holistic.
Holistic.
So
yeah.
instantly I was drawn to that because I have my issues with medical field after a couple bad runs that happened to me. But what is your background? And you're an expert and specialist in hormones. So tell us a little bit about your background.
I'm a family nurse practitioner for 10 years now. So I started out working in urgent care, worked in primary care, occupational meds, so a lot of different areas. And when I was in primary care, they, I like to see my patient. They came in, maybe they have high cholesterol, they're overweight. We're looking at insulin, and I want to start working on nutrition and some exercise, things that we can really kind of start to dial in for them. And if their cholesterol was a little bit high, and they have this thing they developed called the cardiovascular risk score. So when you put all the data in there, they're saying, hey, if they show up on that, then put them on a statin. And I'm thinking, well, we haven't even started working on nutrition yet, exercise. We don't want to go straight to a medication. Well, the company I worked for at that time, they tied our bonus to how many people we put on a statin.
Wow.
And so
Not that they needed it, just you got a bigger bonus if you pushed it.
And I tell you, I never got my bonus. So
well, good for you.
So that kind of drove me out of primary care, because I felt like I am in the room with my patients, and we're trying to work together, and somebody's in the back office and they're driving healthcare, and it's not us here in the room.
What the needs are for that particular guest.
Yeah, for that particular person.
I'm going to loop it back into vaccines. And it was kind of funny. I was in Kroger, I think, which is a local grocer here, and it said, hey, there's 14 vaccinations that your insurance will get paid for free. Yeah. Sign up today. And I'm like, no, I'm done with all that. I had some bad experience with vaccinations, but
nobody needs 14 in one day.
Absolutely not.
No.
We could segue to a whole nother show.
Yes,
talk about
absolutely.
vaccines.
It seems to be the issue. We do segue into, and we got to have you back.
So it sounds like to me that you not only empathetic, caring for your patients, but you've had some knowledge about more natural, holistic ways of medical care.
Yes.
So when did you decide, I'm jumping in with both feet? I'm going that direction?
Yeah. It was probably a slow onset in primary care. The more things that they were telling us that we had to do, that took my ability to work with my patients when they were taking those things away from us. Like, oh, you just don't really have to think anymore, Chad. Just do. Yep. And I started looking, and what can we do? Where can we go? So I can be my own boss, and I get to make the call. So we can really treat the individual.
For the care, I know a lot of times speaking with guests behind the chair, and Joe got put on a statin for a very short period of time. I was very against it. I got him off it quickly because he was having memory loss within a month, some severe memory loss. And so I look at that and I think, why we have came to see you is, there's other ways around high blood pressure. There's other way around cholesterol.
Right.
And what would be some of those things that would kind of, that goes into the hormone cycle too? What are some things, we just got diet.
Diet. So what goes into balancing the hormones?
Or your cholesterol.
Your cholesterol.
Anything. Minus taking a statin.
Yeah, because you're saying that was kind of shoved down your throat. To take that, what would be, what are other ways in taking the statin that they could help them in balancing the hormones, lowering their cholesterol?
Lowering cholesterol, yeah. How do you help lower cholesterol? Well, we do that with detoxing the body. Think about the gut. LDL crosses the gut barrier in there. So we definitely work on going back to root cause. We got to fix the gut. The liver, we have some things that get conjugated through the liver with the LDL. So how clean is the liver? The liver is our big filter. Is it filled up with toxins? We need to clean that up so we get better signaling pathways. The exercise, the nutrition helps lower the cholesterol numbers. And, on the statin category, it can be a very much needed medication. I'm not speaking bad about statins in its entirety, because we do testing. There's some people genetically that don't conjugate or convert like the LDL, so it will build up in them, and there's just where statins come in, and they can be critical for that person's health. So that probably is about 3% of the population, though. So they've taken this whole statin category and then applied it with a broad stroke to just, elevated cholesterol or LDL levels, and they've got billions of people on them.
So where does your diet and working out, can you control some of it with just that?
Absolutely. I've seen it. We do that.
Before you jump into a statin,
Yes.
there are other ways to kind of help lower that.
Yes, because you have to consider, everything works in the body synergistically. So you're going to do we have what's going on metabolically? So again, we mentioned thyroid earlier is going to play a role. How about with your not only hormones in there, but I just lost my train of thought on that.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay.
Well, I was thinking about statins because, like she said, I had the negative side effects. And somehow we kind of flipped script here just a little bit, but I'm going to ask a statin question. Do you believe that it leads to any long-term, any other, many of my clients believe that dementia and
Alzheimer's dementia
are
can be created from
result
statins.
of statins, in a sense. Is that just another myth, or is there any kind of, is it showing that could be true?
Yeah, it could being on a statin lead to memory issues, onto Alzheimer's dementia. Yeah. Medications, prescription medications, all of them can deplete our vitamins, nutrients. So with the statins, we know the primary ones that it depletes is vitamin D and CoQ10 and magnesium. So those definitely affect the brain. So if somebody's on a statin, we definitely have them take those to supplement. And that's where a lot of the cramps come in. A lot of people have those first two symptoms on statins seem to be
I hear it all the time.
cramps, muscle
Yes.
cramps, weakness, and then the brain, the memory, the brain
Yes, we
fog.
have several clients that feel they've seen their family member or their mate or somebody, that was on a statin that led to some pretty severe, some severe issues. But it sounds like to me, someone just jumped and gave it to him and didn't look at these other issues first. Didn't try to clean the body up, balance it.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of people, a doctor can go, hey, take the statin. They don't want to put the effort into the diet and exercise,
And
which
the
is
research
effort.
that you do.
In the research.
The research and finding out what else, how do I get this body right, the gut, everything.
Yeah. And we're holistic, what we do, but we're integrative practice. Integrative means we also do use prescription medications.
Yes.
I can manage blood pressure. I can write those scripts. And we have a lot of individuals that like to try and get off those medications.
I'm one of those.
But
I've tried.
I've
tried blood pressure, but that was one. Trying to come off of that, I've been very scared because I start feeling different. I'm like, oh, give me back my medicine, know. So, but I've got myself down to just 2, I think now. Whereas I was like 6, 8, because you go to a doctor and go, my toe hurts, and they're like, oh, here, let me write you a prescription, and you're on another prescription.
Right.
So, but I don't want to get sidetracked.
Yeah.
That is a whole nother subject for me.
I have patients on statins. They need to be. And for those individuals, we look at, let's keep checking your vitamin D, your CoQ10. Let's make sure that you're not being depleted, and let's fill up your tank in those areas. And they feel much better. We can support some of those symptoms while they're on the statin.
I think that it would probably be pretty fair to say that you need to control your own health. Even though you may be going to a doctor and he's like, because I see it with my clients, and they'll come in, they're like, oh, I just got diagnosed and I'm put on this medicine. I'm diagnosed now. And with one client of mine,
each week,
every time she comes in, she's on a different medicine or needing a different surgery. And I'm like, I think you need to get some control. And what's really funny, though, and I'm not putting down the medical field, but like people are scared if you say, hey, have you thought about looking holistic or thought about this? They're like, well, I'm going to listen to what the doctor says.
They've listened to people tell them that you're not educated as a holistic doctor or provider. They've listened to people tell them that you're trying to give them potions, not, like you said, you can prescribe medicine as well, but I think people have led them to believe that you're not as educated as someone that they're seeing currently.
And I can speak for you personally.
Yes.
I do not agree with that concept at all.
No.
I didn't want to diverse here, and I didn't want to do that off of hormones because this is such an important subject. So,
well, I feel like there's, for myself, because I'm special. I say that jokingly because I'm just allergic to everything.
We're going to get you the shirt.
Yeah, I'm special.
Not special.
But, I had to do I had become my own advocate. I had become my own doctor, if it didn't feel right, I'm just not going to let somebody say, take this. Okay. If it didn't seem right, it didn't sound right, or let me research a little bit of myself before I decide to say yes to that. So, finding people like you out there is really important because you did listen to me. You did. And I was you would probably agree, I'm a little obstinate when I came to you because I know what what I'm not going to do. And, and again, I know my own body. Had I not done that, I wouldn't be here today because of the blood clots. So I think it's important to be your own advocate, but also find someone you trust. Find someone that is knowledgeable in the things that you've researched. If you don't like the answer, doesn't mean just because they have a medical degree that listen to what they say. If you don't feel comfortable, ask questions about it. What happens if I don't take that? What happens down the road? What's the side effects down the road, before I take something?
Do your own research.
Do your own research. Ask questions. Don't be afraid. I'm not an advocate of letting that be your life. I'm sorry. I don't
People
think.
tell me now behind the chair, they're like, my elbow's hurting, this is hurting. I'm like, let me go in and get Chat GP. I'm going to tell you what's wrong with you. All right, Chad, with that being said, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience in terms of hormones and getting it checked or anything that we didn't cover?
Project.
Yeah, I would say be your own advocate. If you're feeling different, there's new symptoms, go in and you want to find somebody that is a specialist that will look at not only the hormones, but also at thyroid, at cortisol, that's going to look at, I often tell my patients that you're a 100-piece puzzle. And we need to start collect the puzzle pieces and put that picture together and see what you look like. And we do that through symptoms, assessment, a really good head-to-toe assessment, and also using lab work, blood chemistry to start to put those puzzle pieces together.
I will say, I know because I go to him, he marks out an hour, right? Do you do that for every client, or is it just I'm special?
Yeah, you're just that special, Joe.
I'm in the shirt. Yeah. But you really do dive in deep, and you kind of like, well, is there anything else? I'm like, well, yeah, I did kind of have this was hurting, and then you just kind of really get and recover and you talk about it, and it is really, I really appreciate that about your visits. So I guess with that said, we can't thank you enough for what you've done.
Your time, your knowledge has been amazing. I hope we're helping a lot of people out there that have asked a lot of these questions of us.
I think a lot of things have been answered on this podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we'll end this with,
well,
be the best you can be.
And we love you guys.
Love you guys.